Live from Fargo and serving you on TV, online, and on the go. This is Valley News Live at 5.
The weather was pretty ideal today until some not so ideal thunderstorms moved in. We knew there was a chance, so let's get the latest from Hutch in our first alert forecast. Hey, Hutch.
Hey, Andrea, I got to tell you, we do have an isolated severe storm north of Grand Forks. It's working its way across the Red River Valley now, and that camera shot there from the Home of Economy location in Grand Forks keeping its eyes on the darkening skies to the north. Here is the very latest on the radar. We see the yellow box. That is where we do have a severe thunderstorm warning in effect. It's all in western parts of Marshall County right now, south of Stephen. It's working its way to the southeast at 35 miles per hour. Now, this warning is in effect until 5:15 here. And as we take a look at the speed and movement of this particular storm moving to the southeast at 35 miles per hour, it is on its way to Alvarado, but the hail core in pink will likely miss you just to the north and east. And it has maintained this intensity of 1 inch to 1.5 inch diameter hail for the last several scans, and actually for the last hour or more. So Alvarado, it's making its way into your area now. Chirac, it'll be there by 5:30. And as we're watching a couple of cells develop on the Highway 2 corridor in Polk County right now between Erskine and Fosston. Temperatures in the 80s to the south and west, 60s north and east. Your planner for Fargo, the storms stay north. Temperatures will be cooling tonight. It's going to be chilly with that northeast flow. I'll have details on how we close out tonight. We'll track these storms and talk about our weekend ahead here in a minute.
All right, thanks, Hutch. A 60-year-old man is now in jail after a standoff at a motel in Crookston. Crookston police say they were called to the Gulf Terrace Motel for a report of an active domestic situation last night. When they arrived on scene, 60-year-old Joel Fessler was seen entering his room. Officers spoke with the victim and a witness and learned the two knew each other. Police were also told Fessler has a history of fighting with law enforcement. Police tried to get him to come out of his room, but he wouldn't. Officers were eventually able to get him into custody after using pepper ball rounds and a taser. A warrant has now been issued for a man in connection with the recent riot in downtown Fargo. 23-year-old Caliph McLean is wanted for arming rioters, criminal mischief, and attempt to commit simple assault. Police say surveillance video shows McLean throwing rocks at police, breaking into JL Beers, and also trying to break into a cash register. He's also facing multiple misdemeanor charges. Questions remain regarding the actions of Fargo police during the May 30th riot. Fargo police continue to deny any illegal activity, despite the group One Fargo claiming protesters were illegally surveilled. The group declined to show proof or answer reporter questions. So far, requests for information from the city filed by Valley News Live and One Fargo have not been returned. A city spokesperson says the request is in process. So today, Valley News Team's crime and safety reporter Bailey Hurley dug into the claims and tried to figure out what actually happened.
While Fargo police were unable to discuss details in regards to the May 30th protest turned riot, former Deputy Chief Todd Osmondson says while they differ from event to event, the department does have operation plans in place for every large gathering in the city.
We do ops plans on our St. Patrick's Day parade, our large holiday parade. We have ops plans for every large event. And yes, we had one on May 30th. For our Black Matter Lives March. There was nothing illegal or devious about that.
However, One Fargo leaders announced Monday they believe Osmondson relayed intel to Police Chief Todd during the protest and also claims other officers were illegally accessing traffic cameras to surveil protesters.
We have information that shows the Fargo Police Department engaged in an illegal black ops mission against community activists and its citizens.
That is so completely false and makes me nauseous and sick to hear.
Much like I'm freely able to take pictures and videos of those walking up and down the streets of downtown Fargo, police are too, as you have little rights to privacy when it comes to public spaces. I spoke with multiple agencies both locally and in the Midwest today who say they have both operation plans for large events as well as monitor surveillance and traffic cameras to ensure safety, saying it's all just part of the job. In downtown Fargo, Bailey Hurley, Valley News Live.
The May 30th event and what took place is currently under review by the mayor's office. A 56-year-old woman is dead following a grain bin accident in Stutsman County. Authorities say co-workers lost sight of the woman last night as they were working on a bin of sunflower seeds near Pingree, North Dakota. Rescuers cut a number of holes in the structure before finding her body. The sheriff's office is not yet releasing her name publicly, but do say the victim is from Montpelier, North Dakota. State health officials are confirming 39 new cases of COVID-19, along with one additional death in North Dakota. Officials say she was a woman in her 70s with underlying health conditions. That brings the death toll to 74. 39 more people have tested positive, bringing active cases to 391. 2,515 people are listed as recovered. In Minnesota, the health department is reporting 453 new cases of COVID-19 and 13 more deaths linked to the virus. This brings the death toll in the state to 1,249. Of those deaths, 994 happened in a nursing home or long-term care facility. 453 new cases are reported, bringing the active case count to 3,197. 24,870 people are listed as recovered. There's still time to head over to the mass testing event at the Fargo Dome. It runs until 6 this evening. The tests are free and insurance will not be processed. Appointments are not required, but you are strongly encouraged to complete the online screening questionnaire in advance. If you test positive, you will be notified by phone within 72 hours. A link to the questionnaire can be found by clicking on this story on the VNL News app. They will be testing again tomorrow from 10 to 6. Police have abandoned a neighborhood in Seattle following weeks of protests after the death of George Floyd. That has sparked a war of words between President Trump and Seattle's mayor. In other cities, protesters have damaged or pulled down more controversial statues. Elise Preston has the latest on protests from around the country.
Protesters are calling Seattle's Capitol Hill neighborhood a cop-free zone. Police recently boarded up their precinct building and left.
This also is our building, as we paid for this, and we paid for their works, and everything that they do is supposed to benefit the people.
The new peace on the streets follows a week of nightly standoffs with police. Last night, President Trump tweeted to Washington's governor and Seattle's mayor, "Take back your city now. If you don't do it, I will." And he called the protesters domestic terrorists. Seattle's mayor tweeted back, "Make us all safe. Go back to your bunker." This morning, Boston removed a statue of Christopher Columbus that protesters decapitated. In Portsmouth, Virginia, demonstrators set afire, beheaded, and pulled down 4 statues that make up a Confederate monument. Demonstrators in Richmond targeted a statue of Confederate President Jefferson Davis. And protesters in St. Paul, Minnesota, toppled a 10-foot-tall Columbus statue outside the state capitol. In Washington, House Speaker Nancy Pelosi renewed her call to remove 11 Confederate statues from Capitol Hill.
The protests have also brought big changes to the world of sports, including the U.S. Soccer Federation, which has now repealed a policy requiring players to stand during the national anthem.
NASCAR has now banned the Confederate battle flag from all of its races and venues. The only African-American full-time NASCAR driver, Bubba Wallace, led the campaign for equality, painting Black Lives Matter on his car, as well as the words compassion, love, and understanding.
It's not that we're saying no other lives matter. We're trying to say that Black Lives Matter too.
Some fans said this is a deal breaker, as did driver Ray Cicerelli, who said in a Facebook post he's ending his career. Elise Preston, CBS News, New York.
The Smithsonian is leading an effort to collect objects and signs from Lafayette Square in Washington, D.C., where thousands gathered to protest the death of George Floyd. The museum says it wants future generations to understand the role that race has played in America's history. The Congressional Black Caucus held a forum on police accountability in America just days after the CBC and House and Senate Democrats unveiled the Justice in Policing Act, a bold reform to curb police brutality and racial profiling and eliminate qualified immunity. Panelists at today's forum talked about what has gone wrong in past reform efforts, what policing feels like in Black communities, and what defunding police really means.
Police unions are powerful forces shaping government. lobbying for more and more resources and less oversight and accountability. This must end, and we need you to be active participants in dismantling what does not serve us.
Connie Rice, the co-founder and co-director of the Advancement Project, says this policing system descends directly from slavery. President Trump is imposing sanctions on some members of the International Criminal Court. The move pushing back on what his administration says are unjust investigations into war crimes allegations against American service members in Afghanistan. The president signed an executive order yesterday.
We're authorizing the imposition of economic sanctions against ICC officials directly engaged in ICC efforts to investigate U.S. personnel or allied personnel against that allied state's consent, and against others who materially support such officials' activities.
The lead prosecutor's office has said it has determined that there is a reasonable basis to believe that war crimes were committed by members of the U.S. Armed Forces in Afghanistan and by members of the CIA in secret detention facilities in Afghanistan and in other countries, especially between 2003 and 2004. Still ahead on Valley News Live at 5, British monuments are coming down as the country faces up to what's happened in the past.
Our severe thunderstorm warning has been canceled for northwest Minnesota and Marshall County. We'll have the latest on where these are going and what you can expect for the rest of your night and work week coming up next.